Today's lesson is reaching for the heavens in Meteora. Hello, everyone. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to continue to talk about Greece. More specifically, we're going to talk about a place in Greece called Meteora. Now, remember last time we introduced this place to you. It's high above the plain of Thessaly. It towers above the plain there. And, of course, you're going to see these stone pillars there. There are lots of religious sites there. There have been religious sites there since the beginning of the 9th century. And they've got monasteries that still exist there. And if you're an ambitious tourist, you can check them out.
Absolutely, yeah. Hermits first settled there many years ago, more than 1,000 years ago. And then, as Roger mentioned, monks and nuns built monasteries on top of these rock formations. They watched over the towns and the local people who lived around them. Eventually, a lot of these monasteries did close down, but the area was given a boost back in 1988 when it was named a United Nations World Heritage Site. So that's good, and it brings in lots of tourists, of course, and tourists come to see not only the monasteries and the beautiful pillars of Meteora, these rock formations, but many other things. So today's article is going to be focusing on some of the other types of activities, apart from just sightseeing and things like that, that you can do if you do ever get a chance to visit this amazing part of Greece.
Okay, so let's dig right in here and talk about those monasteries. We'll listen now to the first part of our lesson, and then we'll be right back to discuss it.
While the monasteries once relied on a dangerous system of ladders, baskets, and ropes to bring up people and supplies, winding roads now allow visitor access to the area. Entering the monasteries remains difficult, however, and guests can expect a long, steep climb up stairs carved into the rocks to reach the gates, as well as a strict dress code when they arrive. The reward is a glimpse of 500-year-old murals, sacred religious objects, and a lifestyle from another time.
大家好，第一部分我们看到动词 carve 表示雕刻。举例来说 The man carved this piece of wood to look like a small sleeping cat. 这个男人把这一块木材刻得像是一只睡着的小猫。或是 It takes a lot of skill and patience to carve a statue from stone. 要将石材雕刻成一座雕像，需要大量的技巧与练习。接下来我们看到名词 glimpse 指一瞥或是瞥见，像是 Mary is not sure what type of animal it was because she only saw one glimpse of it. Mary 不确定那是什么动物，因为她只瞥见了它一眼而已。另外，以下补充一个包含 glimpse 的片语 catch, have, get a glimpse of somebody, something 表示瞥见或是一瞥。例如 Janet caught a glimpse of a rare bird while hiking. Janet 在登山时瞥见一只稀有的鸟类。再来我们看到名词 mural 指壁画，例如 The artist painted a mural on one of the walls outside the mall. 这位艺术家在商场外的其中一面墙上画了一幅壁画。接下来我们看到形容词 sacred 指神圣的，不容亵渎的，像是 In the center of the village is a statue that is sacred to the people who live here. 在这个村庄的中心有一座对村民来说很神圣的雕像。接着我们看到名词 lifestyle 指生活方式，我们可以说 If Mia prefers a flexible lifestyle, she can try working from home. 如果 Mia 偏好随性的生活方式，她可以试着在家上班。
Okay, so remember, the pillars in Meteora are pretty cool, and then the monasteries are on top of those pillars. So, yeah, that's something you definitely want to check out. You want to go see those monasteries. And it says here, while the monasteries once relied on a dangerous system of ladders, baskets, and ropes to bring up people and supplies, winding roads now allow visitor access to the area. So while it is true that the monasteries once relied on ladders, baskets, and ropes, okay? So if you rely on something, you depend on that thing, you need it, and if you don't have it, you're going to be in big trouble.
That's right. So in the old days, to get into these monasteries, you had to climb things or have people pull you up by ropes or climb ladders and stuff like that. Not the type of thing your average tourist these days might be willing to do. So it says now, winding roads now allow visitor access to the area. There we used access, of course, as a noun, talking about accessing a place. Using it as a verb, or access, is basically a way into or out of somewhere. A door allows you access. If the door is locked and you need to get inside, a window might provide you with access. So when we talk about visitor access, this is basically how visitors, how tourists can get into the area, or more specifically, visit the monasteries. But entering the monasteries remains difficult, however. So maybe it's not quite as dangerous as it used to be, but it's still not easy. It says, and guests can expect a long, steep climb upstairs carved into the rocks to reach the gates, as well as a strict dress code when they arrive. Wow, okay, so don't expect to sort of roll up in your comfortable air-conditioned bus, take a few steps, and be inside a monastery. No, bring your comfortable shoes, as it says, because you'll expect a long, steep climb upstairs carved into the rocks. So you won't have to maybe climb a ladder or be pulled up in a basket, but you will have to climb up lots of stairs. And these are natural stairs, so maybe not the most comfortable or easy thing to walk on. We know that because they're carved into the rocks. So they actually just cut into the rocks using hammers and chisels, and over a lot of time and with a lot of hard work, cut or carved these stairs into the rocks. So yeah, something you'll definitely want to have a good, tough pair of shoes. Don't go in your sandals or your flip-flops. And along with having the right shoes, you'll also need the right types of clothing. This is something you definitely want to do some research on, because in many of these monasteries, they still have religious people working there. And as you know, if you've ever visited a temple or a mosque or a church or something, some of these places have a dress code, basically a list of clothing items that are okay and other items that are not okay. So don't wear your bikini, don't wear your shortest shorts or something like that. If it's a hot day, I'm sorry, gentlemen, you'll still have to wear a shirt and things like that. Maybe shorts might not be allowed, or your shorts might have to be quite long. And this is a strict dress code. So if it's strict, basically if you show up wearing something that's not appropriate, that shows a little too much skin probably, they might say, I'm sorry, you can't come in. Please go and find a jacket, find a long pair of pants. And then of course you'll have to climb down all of those stairs back to your bus to get your sweater. So yeah, check that out before you start the climb up.
Yeah, do your research and figure out what kind of clothing that you should bring with you when you visit these monasteries. You should show some respect to the local people, especially show some respect to their religious institutions. And the reward is a glimpse of 500-year-old murals, sacred religious objects, and a lifestyle from another time. So it's, quite difficult. It will be quite rewarding after that difficult climb to see these things when you arrive at the monastery. You'll have a glimpse of various things. A glimpse is just a look at something.
That's right. Maybe a quick look. You can't stay there and spend hours maybe in the monasteries, but you will have a good look of some of these wonderful old treasures. 500-year-old murals. A mural is basically a painting that's been done on a wall. So often people might think of the famous Last Supper painting by Leonardo da Vinci that is a mural in an Italian monastery. And these are 500 years old. So also going back to around the same time as Leonardo da Vinci. I don't think Da Vinci painted any of them, but if you want to see some beautiful old paintings in their natural state right where they were painted over 500 years ago, they have those. And also sacred religious objects. Well, of course, in a church, in a monastery, and especially an old church or monastery, you will expect to find sacred religious objects. A religious object is a thing that's important to a religion or a certain type of temple or church or whatever. And if it's sacred, basically basically sacred is just saying it's very holy. It's the type of thing that has a lot of importance or value in the culture and the customs of this religion. And of course, these things are also very, very old. And you'll also see people who are living today, just like we are, but with a lifestyle from another time. So I imagine you won't find a lot of these people, making TikTok videos from their monastery. They might not have cell phones. They might not even have electricity in some of the monasteries. Who knows? But I bet you won't be able to catch people watching the latest Netflix programs. They're living their lifestyle, or the way they live their lives is from another time, almost like they're time travelers, but they're choosing to live today, but using the sort of value, customs, and maybe even technology of a time long ago.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson where we were talking about monasteries. Let's talk about the great outdoors now. Let's listen to the next part.
Though Meteora is best known for these monasteries, the area is also a paradise for those who love outdoor adventure. Its unique natural features offer activities such as rock climbing, rafting, and hiking. Visitors can also experience firsthand the sights of local legends about dragons and miracles.
第二部分我们看到单字 first hand， 这个字是副词，指直接的或是第一手的，像是 Gary has learned firsthand about what it is like to survive a terrible earthquake. Gary 亲身经历了在可怕的地震中生还是什么感觉。另外，除了上面的意思，这个字还可以当形容词，用指第一手的或是直接的。举例来说 ，Clark has first-hand knowledge of why Jenny was fired. Clark 有 Jenny 为何遭解雇的第一手资讯。
Okay, we begin the second part by saying, though Meteora is best known for these monasteries, the area is also a paradise for those who love outdoor adventure or outdoor activities. So it is true that Meteora is most famous for these monasteries. That's the main reason people go there. But you could also do other things in the great outdoors. It's a paradise for those who love outdoor adventure. I hear the same thing is true for New Zealand if you like climbing mountains or doing bungee jumping or whitewater rafting and stuff like that. New Zealand is an outdoor paradise, but evidently Meteora is also a paradise for people who like to do things outside. A paradise is just a great place where everything is wonderful. Heaven is a similar word, but heaven is usually used in religions. Paradise is a general term to describe a place where everything is just nifty.
That's right. And we often use this word when talking about tourism and holidays. Paris is a shopper's paradise. Taiwan night markets are a food lover's paradise. So there can be many different types of paradise for the type of person or the things that you're interested in. Roger actually was very close with the sports that he named there for being popular or a paradise for adventure lovers in New Zealand, because in Meteora we see many of those same types of activities. It says this is of course the area of Meteora. Its unique natural features offer activities such as rock climbing, rafting, and hiking. 3 things that people do go to New Zealand to enjoy. It's famous for those things. So of course with these amazing rock formations, you can climb them. Why not? Rock climbing is popular there. Also rafting, that's going in a small boat down the sort of wild, rough rivers that flow between these mountainous areas. So you can enjoy that if you like to have a little bit of adventure on the water and maybe get wet as you fall in occasionally. And also some hiking for people who like things a little more gentle, a little less exciting, but you do have that comfortable pair of shoes. Maybe go for a hike, bring your camera. I'm sure the scenery and the landscape will be spectacular.
And visitors can also experience firsthand the sights of local legends about dragons and miracles. So if you experience something firsthand, of course, you see it with your own eyes. You're right there. You're not reading about it on the internet, or you're not hearing somebody else tell you about it.
That's right. And I'm sure with this ancient history going back thousands and thousands of years, they have lots of wonderful local legends. It says the local legends are about dragons and miracles. Well, already I'm interested. Legends are kind of like myths. They're stories that come to us from far back in time. They're generally not entirely accurate. Think of more like a fairy tale type of story. Stories of heroes and great events that probably happened long before written words and books and newspapers and things like that. So they're sort of important stories to a culture, to an area of the world, but not entirely accurate with their facts. So stories about dragons, for example, but also stories of miracles. Being a religious area, you would expect a lot of amazing religious type of events to have taken place. And a miracle is one of those unexplained things that happens. People believe with miracles just because of God's intervention, because God acted in some way when someone is saved from a terrible accident, even though they should certainly have been killed or badly hurt. They just walked away with no injury at all. Or, someone who is very, very sick with a terrible disease, and then they wake up the next day after praying in a church the night before, and they're fine. The disease has totally disappeared. You can't explain these things through normal science or things like that. So people with a lot of religious belief will say, well, it's a miracle. It was just God or, some religious power acting to help you out. So they have lots of stories about things like that.
Yep, so if you're hiking around, you might come across some of these sites where these miracles happened and where people saw dragons. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's now go on to the third part.
After spending hours exploring Meteora's scenery and sights, tired tourists can relax in the villages of Kalambaka and Kastraki, located on the plain below the pillars. There, restaurants with menus full of traditional Greek dishes await travelers looking for a hearty meal. It's a great way to come back down to earth after visiting the heavens above.
第三部分，我们看到形容词 hearty， 指食物丰盛的、大量的或是情感强烈的。举例来说 ，A hearty lunch will give us the energy to work in the afternoon. 一顿丰盛的午餐会让我们在下午工作时有精神。或是 Having a hearty breakfast will help keep Ken's energy up throughout the day. 吃一顿丰盛的早餐会让 Ken 这一整天有足够的能量。
Okay, let's dive right into the third part of our lesson for today. After spending hours exploring Meteora's scenery and sights, tired tourists can relax in the villages of Kalambaka and Kastraki, located on the plain below the pillars. So, yes, you've gotten yourself really tired from exploring those monasteries and hiking around and checking out those local legends and stuff like that. You're going to be really hungry. So, yeah, head to these villages where you can chow down and maybe check out the sights there in those villages as well.
That's true. And, of course, Greek food is wonderful. And it says there in these villages, there are restaurants with menus full of traditional Greek dishes await travelers looking for a hearty meal. Well, yes, absolutely. After a day of rock climbing, rafting, hiking, climbing stairs to see the monasteries and hearing about the legends of the dragons and miracles, you will be hungry. You will be looking for a hearty meal. If we describe something as hearty, especially if we're talking about a meal or food, it's very filling. It's the type of heavy meal you might want to take a nap after. If you just snack on a piece of fruit, that is not a hearty meal. If you go to a typical American home for Thanksgiving or a typical Taiwanese home for Chinese New Year feast or a wedding banquet, something like that, that would be more of a hearty meal that we're thinking about here. Very filling with lots of courses, lots of food, and by the end you'll just be going, that's enough. I've eaten too much delicious food. What a hearty meal. So yes, definitely some Greek food would go down very well. And as we read in the last sentence of the article, with this hearty meal, with this wonderful dinner at the end of your exciting and busy day, it's a great way to come back down to earth after visiting the heavens above. Of course, we've been up to the top of these rock pillars to see the monasteries or gone rock climbing, so we are literally coming back down to earth, moving back down towards the surface of the earth from these high peaks. But we also use the expression to basically say to sort of return back to your normal emotional state. You've been excited and amazed and filled with wonder and maybe a little scared during that rafting trip down the river. So we're calming down, we're relaxing, we're sort of getting back to normal after a very wonderful, exciting, and fun-filled day in Meteora.
What a way to end an exciting day. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. It's time now to listen to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分推荐游客可以到沿著下方平原的村庄放松。那在那里，餐厅的菜单上充满各种传统希腊餐点，等着想要饱餐一顿的游客。好，文中它用到Travelers looking for a hearty meal 来表达想要饱餐一顿的游客，寻求一顿丰盛大餐的游客。好，那同学们有没有注意到句子里面的名词 travelers 后面是直接接了现在分词 looking， 那它其实是由 who are looking 简化而来的，这是分词片语的用法。我们来学习。分词片语呢，是由形容词子句简化成名词，搭配现在分词 VING 或是过去分词 PP 的结构。那我们来看简化的过程哦。在我们碰到这个主格关系代名词 who、which 或是 that 所引导的形容词子句时，我们可以先省略这个关系代名词，然后把动词改成分词，就会形成分词片语了。好，那么动词是主动的时候就用现在分词，被动就用过去分词。举例来说 The man who is standing by the sports car is an actor. 站在跑车旁边的那名男子是个演员。好，句中的 who is standing by the sports car 它是关系子句嘛，那这里的 who is standing 就可以简化成 standing， 那例句就变成 The man standing by the sports car is an actor。再造一个例句 Dana is looking at a portrait that was painted by a local artist. Dana 正在看一幅由当地画家所画的肖像。那么句中的这个 that was painted by a local artist 它是关系子句， that was painted 就可以把它简化成 painted， 因为它是被动的部分，我们直接用过去分词就可以了。那例句就变成 Dana is looking at a portrait painted by a local artist。 好，另外课文有用到片语动词 look for 来表达寻找，我们也顺便补充几个跟动词 look 相关的常见片语。第一个是look up something 或者是 look something up， 它表示查询查阅某事物，像 look up a word in the dictionary 就是表达在字典上查单字。好，那如果是不及物用法 look up 它可以表达情况好转，渐有起色，这时候它意思就相当于 improve 或者是 get better。 第二个介绍的片语是 look after， 它表示照顾，意思就跟 take care of 差不多，后面可以接人或是事物。举例来说 They asked a friend to look after their cats while they were away. 他们请一位朋友在他们外出时帮忙照顾猫。那第三个补充的片语是 look to somebody， 它是表达指望某人、仰赖某人，常常用来表达期待对方提供某一些协助。举例来说Tina always looks to her sister for advice. Tina 总是向姐姐来寻求建议，她总是仰赖姐姐提供她建议。那要特别注意，我们在第一天课文有读到 hermits looking to separate themselves。 好，这里的用法不一样哦。Look 当动词可以表达想要、试着要，那么之后是接不定词 to be 来表达计划做某事、打算做某事，而这个用法通常是用进行式 be looking to 加原形动词来表达。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Access. A narrow dirt path in front of the hotel provides access to the beach. Carve. Simon carved his name into the tree in his yard when he was young. Glimpse. We caught a glimpse of the whale as it swam near the boat. Sacred. The church contains a large number of sacred objects. Paradise. New Zealand is a paradise for people who love hiking. Legend. According to a local legend, this river is home to a goddess. Miracle. When their son became sick, Henry and Francine prayed for a miracle.
Discussion starter starts now.
Here's our discussion starter for today. Would you be interested in visiting the monasteries at Meteora? Why or why not?
I would love to visit the monasteries of Meteora first because I've found this place interesting ever since that old James Bond movie. I think it was For Your Eyes Only. The final battle takes place in one of the monasteries, and I remember seeing that as a kid and just going, is that a real place? So I've been, kind of curious about this. I didn't know about all the different things to do there, so the article has been very helpful in that, but definitely it would be in the top 2 or 3 places I would have to visit the next time I go to Greece.
Well, the monasteries don't interest me much since I'm afraid of heights, and if I were to climb up those stairs, I would be scared out of my wits. I would be afraid that I would fall down to the valley floor and die right there during my vacation.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.